All right, what is up, guys? VV back with another video, and today we are going to be going over some leaders and a little bit of sealed, a draft format, limited format. We are going to talk all about that in today's video, and I really want to get people prepared for the upcoming OP-04 Western launch, which at the time you're recording this will be on Friday. Okay, so make sure you're signed up if you're not already. Okay, so let's get you guys prepared first and foremost by reading some of the rules. Don't worry, it's just like 5 rules we got to go over real quick. Okay, so typically speaking in a sealed format, right? That's what we're talking about, right? That's what your pre-release events are going to be, and that's what we're trying to get ready for. Let's get ready for our pre-release events at our local card shops. So let's talk about it real quick. In the sealed format, players each open a set number of booster packs from specified sets and build their decks using using only the cards they open. Okay, and it's going to be 6 packs. Okay, typically speaking, it's going to be 6 packs unless you have some crazy house rules wherever you play at. Okay, so you're going to build your decks using the cards you open, and unlike standard play, you're going to be able to ignore normal deck building color restrictions based on your leader. Okay, that's why it's important we talk about leaders in a second. And you can include any cards of any color in your deck. And there are additional special rules for deck building. Okay, let's get into it. So 6 packs, okay. You may bring your own leader, and you should. We're going to talk about leaders in a second. And lastly, it says, please bring 10 Dawn cards of your own. Yes, you absolutely should bring your own Dawn cards. And one more thing, do not forget to bring your sleeves, okay? Do not forget to bring your sleeves. You might open a very special or rare card when you're drafting here. So you're going to need some sleeves to put them in. All right? All right, so let's keep going. After opening your 6 packs, you're going to build a 40-card deck, not 50. A 40-card deck. And then your 10 Dawn cards, of course. There are no banned or restricted cards, and players can include as many copies of a card with the same number as they want. Right? So in other words, like, there's a 4-card limit typically, not in sealed. If you draw 5 of the same card from your 6 packs you open, by all means, if it's a good enough card to include, throw it in. You can have 5, 6, 7, however many. As long as, and then it says there's no 4-card limit, and 5 or more copies of a card with the same card number can be included in decks. And I think it's as long as you're reaching this 40-card threshold and not going above or below. So someone correct us in the comment section below if you can go above 40. I don't think you can. Any cards left over from deck construction are treated as sideboard cards. Okay, let's go down to that. Sideboard. We don't have to read about Swiss round. That's up to whoever runs the tournament. Okay, cards not used in decks are treated as sideboard cards. In between games, players can exchange cards in their deck with cards in their sideboard. Players can exchange as many cards between decks and sideboard as they like, so long as they have a legal number of cards in their decks. There's that legal number of cards we were talking about, which I believe is exactly 40. Again, someone correct me if I'm wrong there. Keeping cards, players can keep the cards they open, of course, because you're buying these packs, right? That's your entry fee to the tournament, is you're basically buying 6 packs and then doing a tournament. Okay. Special game rules down here. We won't go too much into this. But long story short, in sealed format, players can ignore deck color requirements. So in other words, if you have the red Luffy leader, you can still use green, blue, black, purple, yellow cards, anything you want to. Now, normal restrictions still apply. All other card restrictions will still apply as normal. So in other words, if it like this crocodile card here, an example 2 is a really good one. When using the ability of OP-0167 Crocodile, it says blue event cards in your hand cost 1 less to play. So, in other words, if you have a red event card in your hand, it doesn't count towards that. It'll only count towards your blue event cards. So those restrictions still apply. Okay, same thing with Doflamingo. It says right here, like, if your top card is a 7 Warlords of the Sea, 4 cost or lower, then the ability will trigger, right? But if it's not, it doesn't work. Okay. So that's it for the rules here that we want to talk about. Now let's talk about drafting. We're going to talk about a few things. Number 1, I want to talk about leaders. Number 2, I want to talk about vanilla cards. And number 3, I want to talk about just general game flow of these. So remember, you're only going to be given 6 packs of cards, and you have to make a 40-card deck out of that. So before we get into those cards, first let's look at the leaders. So right away, okay, so there are some OP-05 leaders in here. You're just going to have to ignore those in your mind. I don't know how to restrict that in this search option. But one thing we do need to look for right away is any leader that has 4 or less life That's not what we want for this tournament, right? That is basically not what we want. Let's see if it lets us do that. Life, yeah, it does. Okay, so let's look for leaders that have 5 or more life just right away. Okay, so and it does. It gives. So it did work. It looks like very nice. Okay, so that's something we want right away is 5 or more life, because think about it. The less life you have, well, the less attacks you can take, and the less cards you're going to draw from life, and the less potential triggers you're going to get from your life, right? That's just, it basically goes, it's just common sense, right? It all adds up. And again, now you can use any leader you want to. Maybe there's an interaction I don't know about where there's a multicolor leader with a 4 life that's just insane, but I wouldn't suggest it. So let's, and another thing we want to look at is generically strong effects. Right. So in other words, like Doflamingo, the one they were talking about, this leader, notice how he's a 5,000 power, 5 life. That part's fine. The color doesn't matter, remember? But he has Dawn ×2 when attacking, pay 1. So that's a 3 Dawn investment. Reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If that card is the 7 Warlords of the Sea type character card with a cost of 4 or less, you may play that card rested. Okay, not really what we're interested in, right? Like that really isn't going to help us at all. Pretty much. I mean, no, I don't think so. Unless there's a bunch of 7 Warlords of the Sea cards we draw. And depending on what set you're in, that might not even be a possibility, right? So right away, we don't really care for a card like this. Whereas, same idea with Nami, okay? Nami, yeah, 5,000 power, 5 life. That's fine. And you have this alternate win condition. But you need a whole deck built around this. Now there is something to be said. You only have 40 cards in your deck, right? So you'll draw 5. 5 will be in your life. You only have 30 cards left in your deck throughout the course of the game that you have to get through. So maybe there is some wiggle room for that. But generally speaking, you don't want a leader that has an effect this that is this restricted. Same idea with Rebecca. Guys, y'all know I love the black cards in this game. I'm not running Rebecca on day 1, okay, in the sealed format, because she can't attack. We really want there to be an attack. Now, don't get me wrong, this effect is incredible that she has, but how many Dressrosa cards are you going to be able to draft? I don't know. Maybe if you were able to get 3 Monkey D. Luffy 7 costs randomly, or a Kairos or something, to get the most insane Dressrosa pool, then maybe this leader would be worth considering. But ultimately, I wouldn't say so. Ultimately, I would just pick with something that's a little more generic and straightforward. Okay? Let's look at 3 prime examples real quick, and really we'll look at 4. But there are 3 really solid leaders that we want to look for. We're not going to go through every single leader. Number 1 would be not Kuro. At first, Kuro would be nice, but look at this restriction. You may rest 2 of your characters with a East Blue type, right? So that seems very good, but it's not, because we can't bank on getting enough East Blue characters. However, a card very similar to that is very strong would be Eustace Captain Kidd. This is a prime candidate, right, generally speaking, for a leader in draft. Notice what he does. 5,000 power, 5 life, and we don't care what color he is, right, because we're not restricted to that in this format. Activate main once per turn, pay 3. You may trash 1 card from your hand, set this leader as active. Yeah, that's really good, guys. That is really, really strong. That's allowing you to attack twice with your leader. You might not use that early on in the game, but later in the game, it becomes a game-winning possibility. Okay, so you really, really want to consider this leader. And notice how generic his effect is, which is what we're going to talk about with this next leader, Zoro. He's good in constructed, he's good in limited, okay? Or good in standard, good in limited, however you say that. 5,000 power, 5 life, Dawn ×1, your turn. All your characters gain plus 1,000 power. Dawn ×1 on your turn. That is just generically good. There is nothing that needs to happen for that to be good. Whereas a card like Magellan, or a leader like Magellan, says, on your turn, once per turn, when a Dawn card is returned from the field to the Dawn deck, this leader gains plus 1,000 power during this turn. That is so much more specific. And there aren't as many cards. There aren't many cards that can do that, right? That can return Dawn cards. So you wouldn't want to run a leader like that. I think Whitebeard is actually very interesting. He's not one of the cards I was going to... He's not one of the leaders I was going to talk about, but he is interesting because you get 6 life. But again, end of turn, you are losing that card. Especially in this format, you're not going to have any Whitebeards, right? So anyway, still very interesting because he is a 6,000 power leader. Okay, next up, Luffy is good, but I think he's just not as strong as Zoro in a format like this. But Katakuri, on the other hand, is pretty good, right? I'm not saying he's the best one. In fact, I think the best ones, let me just get this over with, are Eustace Captain Kidd and Zoro. I think those are the 2 best leaders currently. We'll see what happens in the future. But Katakuri is definitely not bad either, because, okay, let me just click, actually I'll just blow it up like this. 5,000 power, 5 life. Dawn times 1, when attacking, look at up to 1 life card from the top of your opponent's life area. Of your or your opponent's life area, and put it either on the top or bottom of the life area. Then this leader gains plus 1,000 power during this battle, or for this battle. That is look at up to 1 life card. So even if there are no more life cards to look at, you're still smashing in for 7,000. So that is actually very good, and you're determining what cards are on the top of their life for them to take or don't take, triggers, get those out of the way, you name it. Definitely a leader worth considering. And what else do we got here? I'm trying to think. I think that's about... Oh, Lucci. This was the other... There was one other leader. This is very similar to the Eustace Captain Kidd effect, but it's a little more conditional. 5,000 power, 5 life. We're fine there. Your turn once per turn. You may trash 2 cards from your hand or discard 2 cards from your hand. When an opponent's character is KO'd, set this leader as active. That's just once per turn, just like Kidd says. Excuse me. But you're trashing 2 cards from hand, and you have to KO, but you don't have to pay any Dawn. So, you know, it does have its... back and forth there. Now, there are a few other leaders that are worth considering, like maybe Ivankov. If you have 0 cards in your hand, draw 2, because drawing cards in sealed is not easy to do, right? But there are some leaders you kind of just want to stay away from. I think Crocodile's okay, but at the same time, nothing crazy, because returning Dawn to bounce a 5 cost in constructed in standard is one thing. But in sealed, it's not quite as powerful. It's not bad, but I think there's just better options. We also have access to Luffy now, which is interesting. Whenever a character's KO'd, give up 1 Rested Dawn card to this leader. And for those who don't know, you're going to be doing a lot of that. You're going to be fighting for board presence with your characters and going about it that way. So, okay, so for the leaders, hopefully that made any sense. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. Or if I missed a really strong leader, which happens, you know, I'm only human, guys. If I miss certain, like maybe Yamato even, like Yamato might be really strong as well now. 5,000 power, 5 life, Dawn times 1, opponent's turn. While your life area has 2 or less cards, this leader gains plus 1,000 power. So that might be really strong. We'll have to see. Okay. Whereas something like Shanks is not strong, right, guys? Not so much because of the Dawn -3. That's just, you know, insult to injury. But your film-type characters gain plus 2,000 power during this turn. Well, how are you going to get access to these film characters, right? Like, there just really aren't any available. Okay. All right. So let's now go over some of the... Let me restart this. Yeah, go to OP-04. And now let's look at some cards. Is there a way to look at no effect? Let me see something on here real quick, guys. Like, I just want to look at vanilla cards. We'll do characters only. Well, yeah, I'm not sure how to do that yet, unfortunately. So let's just go by cost, and then we'll sort by that. Y'all bear with me, guys. Sorry. Okay, why is it... Hang on. What did we do? Cost, character... Oh, life. There we go. Save. All right. All right, so... And this should be for OP-04. Okay, why is it doing this? We'll see if it does that. Is there a way to add the... Hang on. Okay, I think it did it. No, I don't think it did. Whatever. You guys bear with me. The characters that you're going to really want to look for, let me tell you the ones up front, are these vanilla characters. Anytime you see a character like this, I call them vanilla characters. They're technically they're character cards with no effect, because they don't have an effect, right? There's no effect. But I call them vanilla. Every vanilla character is the exact same, like, perceived cost value ratio, right? So in other words, a 5 life character will always have, or excuse me, a 5 cost character will always have 7,000 power and 1,000 counter for the vanilla stats. A 6 cost character will have 8,000 power and 1,000 counter, and then it keeps going up or down from there depending which one you get. So here's another example. Here's a 6-cost 8K from OP-04. This would be an excellent card to get because you're dealing with a 6-cost 8,000 power body here. It has the 1,000 counter. And same thing with Randolph. These will be like your ideal targets to snag, right? Like these three especially. And really, this King is probably one of the best ones. That Japanese writing there just says on play draw 1 card. Because this is a 7-cost 8K with a 1K counter, and it draws you a card. So that's going to be an absolute powerhouse of a card. And I think it's probably uncommon. No, it's rare. Excuse me. That is a rare card. So yeah, if you get a hold of that, snag it. Because remember this. In Limited, you're not building your deck with any cards you want to. Removal, cards like this, cards like Truno Bastardo, and cards like Red Rock, these are going to be very hard to come by. So in other words, these cards we were just looking at, like Randolph here, or Kuro, these are huge body characters that are going to be very hard to deal with, right? They're going to have to invest quite a bit to deal with these. Same thing with Charlotte Paraspero. Yeah, cards like that. Now, there are other cards you're going to want to go for as well, just for obvious reasons. They're super rares for a reason. You got Kaido down here, Doflamingo, super rare, Yamato, super rare. Yamato, not as much. Now, yeah, if you get it in your pack, you know, that's awesome. Keep it and save it. But this one's probably not as good for draft compared to Doflamingo here and Kaido. These are generically powerful effects. Like, okay, 10 costs 12k, so that's already on curve. You lose the 1k counter for this on-play effect. Place up to one of your opponent's 8 or lower cost characters, and one of your opponent's cost 3 or lower characters to its owner's hand. Yeah, that's monstrous, right, guys? That's absolutely insane. We'll take it every time, and now we have a 12k beater on the board. Okay, now, vice versa, for something like this, notice how this character, this would normally be an incredible character to pull, and it still probably is, but 8 costs 9k, on play, Dawn -2, if your leader type includes Baroque Works. Now remember, we can use any color in any leader, but we still have to adhere to this, to the rules on the cards. In order to get this on play effect, your leader does have to be Baroque Works. Now, you can still use the opponent's attack once per turn at any time you want, but if you want to place up to 1 card from the top of your deck on top of your life, which is I would say obviously the most powerful effect on this character, then you have to have a Baroque Works leader. Okay, so maybe that would be justification for running the leader we were talking about. Who was it? Let me go like this. 1 second, guys. We gotta find that real quick. Leader. Excuse me. Leader. Color. Save. Okay, so maybe that would be a reason to run like Crocodile. Just keep that. All you have to do is keep that in your in your with your cards, right? Before you choose your leader, see what cards you get first, and maybe that'd be a reason to run a card like this. And make sure to bring your own sleeves. If I didn't already mention that, I apologize. Do not forget to bring your own sleeves, guys. Please don't forget to bring your own sleeves. A lot of people forget that. Okay, back to what we were saying. So OP-04, the cards you're going to want to snag, you're not going to want to snag searchers like this, right? The cards that are very specific, like, oh, okay, look at 3 cards, add a Dressrosa type. I mean, maybe if you can get 30 out of 40 cards that are Dressrosa, it'd be worth running. But generally speaking, that's not what you're going for. You're just trying to find the most cost-efficient cards you can and add them to your deck. So likewise, with a card like this, Gum Gum King Kong Gun, generally speaking, this card's incredible. The trigger is always good. But the main is limited to Dressrosa type characters only. So, you know, in a draft, sealed like this, you might not get this. You know, even if you get this really strong common, see, it says C down there, it's a common, right? It says rarity uncommon, but when you click on the card, it says common down there. I'm not sure. It might be a typo, who knows. But the point is, this card is not actually that great by itself. It requires the whole Dressrosa engine to function properly. 2K counters are going to be hard to come by, so any 2K counters you can get your hands on, you should. We got Charlotte Amanda here, or Amanda, however you say that. Gang Beige, that's an incredible 2K counter. Blockers as well. Hey, if you can get this card, you absolutely should run this. Draw 2, trash 2, and on play your guys can't be killed by effects. Just extremely good here. Diamante is going to be nice. Dawn ×1, end of turn. If you have 2 or more active Dawn, set this character as active, and he's a blocker. So that's going to be nice. I think there's a few other decent blockers in here. And again, I'm not trying to give every single piece of advice, y'all, but I at least want to point you on the right direction for this draft, for this sealed tournament, all the sealed tournaments coming up. This is potentially very, very good, by the way. Black Maria. This is a 3-cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter. Trigger, play this card. Character. Activate main. Pay 2 and rest this character to draw a card. Any kind of card. So that's the thing, right? 2K counters, card draw, blockers, and just big vanilla bodies, and then of course any powerful super rares. That's what you're going for. Those are the 5 things you're really, really going for. Whereas a card like this is not exactly that good for what we're doing. This card might not be good, period, but it's definitely not good for what we're trying to do in a sealed, right? You may discard 1 Ice-Only card from your hand. Well, what if we don't even have an Ice-Only? This card's just dead in hand. You see what I'm saying? So definitely consider that when you're playing. Events can be very powerful, like especially Spiderweb here. I would blow it up, but you see it's in Japanese on this website still. Counter, up to 1 of your leader or character cards gains plus 4,000 power during this battle, then set up to 1 of your characters as active. So it's a 2-cost 4K that also sets 1 of your characters as active. Trigger, up to 1 of your leader gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. So the trigger is incredible, giving you plus 2K for the whole turn. And you have Flapping Thread, which is the same thing. Not as strong, actually, because it says if your leader has the Don Quixote Pirates type, up to 1 of your leader or character cards gains plus 2K. So, and yeah, the trigger is good, but it doesn't matter because the counter itself is not good enough for us to run. Okay, so I think that's about it, guys. I don't have a lot more to say. If I missed something, if we got some veteran drafters in the comments section, help us out, guys. Tell us what we need. I have a pretty good idea, obviously, but there might be something I missed that could really help someone else out. Another one I want to talk about is a card like this, like Barrier. It's definitely not a bad card, but think of it like this: 1 cost for a 2K. The trigger's nice. The 1 cost 2K is probably not bad at all, actually. The more I'm thinking about it, if you did not get a lot of 2K counters, this might be a decent substitute, even though it costs 1, because late in the game, I don't know though. When it comes to sealed, it really depends. I don't see you having 15 or more cards in your trash when that's, think about it. We're not dealing with 50 card decks. We're dealing with 40 card decks. So you do have to keep that in consideration. Keep that in mind. Take that into consideration. Okay. I think that's it, guys. There are some other cards in here that I did not mention that are very good, but I think I gave you guys at least a decent idea. As usual, guys, if you have any comments or questions below, please ask. I'll probably come out with a top 10 list later of what to search for, when you're making your deck for your sealed drafts, because there are a few cards that are just insane, right? Like Bartolomeo here is just insane. It's a 3-cost 3K blocker and a 2K counter. Why would you not run that, right? And then there's cards like Ulti here that are just pretty decent. Return up to 1 character card that costs 2 or less to the owner's hand or the bottom of their deck. So you can choose. Like when attacking, it's return up to 1 character with a cost 2 less to the owner's hand or the bottom of their deck. So if it's one of your cards, you can return it to your hand, or if it's your opponent's card, bottom deck it. So there are little cards like this that are very strong. What else? Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't want to ramble on for too much longer. And like I said, I will probably make a top 10 list of cards to look for in this set for OP-04 when you're drafting. All right, guys, that's it. Hope y'all enjoyed. And please don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And hope y'all enjoyed. Until next time, guys. Peace.